Okay, right, so yeah, to kick off, I thought I'd just say a few things about me because I don't know anybody here. Um, so, I've been a web developer since, look at that, it works, 2001. So, yeah, ages, basically, fucking ages. During that time, I've been billed as all these types of things, which are mostly some kind of developer. Primarily a work agency side, client-driven projects, in-house. Since the start of this year, mid-January, I became another type of developer, but I got to choose the title myself this time. And I mostly work for digital and creative agencies, which is what I did in permanent employment, and I guess that's the environment that I'm used to working in, so I can kind of slot into those roles quite well. So these sorts of people, I've nothing against Reading Room, they just didn't have a very big logo on their website. So I'm at Code at the moment, and yeah, companies like that basically, when they've got a bit of a rush on, or occasionally if you're very lucky, they'll get you in to do a brand new fresh project, but that's not often the case. That's the sort of places that I tend to hang out. Okay, I've got some show of hands stuff lined up. So who have we got that's freelance in the room at the moment? Oh, a wobbly one. And who have we got that's permanent? Everyone else? And permanent that is maybe thinking about going freelance at some point or other? Not everyone else. Okay. Right, okay, next show of hands. Who's familiar with these books? Yeah. Who's read them all?
Really?
Got one.
One.
Good. What about the pink one?
Just it's pretty useless.
You've got mine hasn't arrived yet. So in that case, oh fuck, what have I done there? You'll have read that one as well. So this is the book out of all of them that I probably was least interested in reading, and it's now my favourite. I basically ignored it because it said design is a job and I'm not a designer, I'm a developer. But yeah, it turned out to be my favourite. It's all really good stuff in the book, and it had a really good chapter on getting clients, which is what I was going to focus on this evening. Yeah, if you've not read it, you might be surprised that if you work in the industry, it's got an awful lot of good stuff in it. Yeah, so one of the most interesting sections in that book I found was the one about getting clients, because I was thinking about maybe going freelance at the time, and I just wondered, how the hell do you do that stuff? I know how to build a website, but I don't know how to find clients. So I've got a little quick run through of what happens when you first go freelance in my experience. So to start with, I was actually corrected on this. You have to check with the wife, and then save up a little bit of money, and then hand in your notice. And then the next step, you don't have to do this, but you could start a company. I started a company. That's quite easy to do. Next step, maybe build a website. I mean, that's what we'll do anyway, and it seems like the obvious next thing to do. Update the LinkedIn profile, obviously. Start flapping your tail around, and then yeah, sit back and watch the contracts roll in. Just wait for it to magically happen. Yeah, that's the point where I kind of wondered what was next. I know quite a lot of other freelancers, and over the last couple of years they've constantly said to me, there's tons of work around, don't worry about it, you'll find work. And I thought, yeah, that sounds great. I don't know how to find it, but it's comforting to know that there's lots of work around. Well, how does it find me? Because if I don't have to go out looking for it, then that's even better. So I guess I kind of made a plan of all the stuff to do to try and find work, and the obvious starting point was probably advertising. I worked at an ad agency for the last 5 years, so that's kind of got into my blood a bit, unfortunately. And since I'm a web developer, I can build my own website, so that seemed like a good starting point. And as a front ender, obviously, we're all shit hot at SEO, so it's pretty good starting point to get yourself a website and make sure it ranks highly on Google. But then after that, I figured I'd send some speculative emails out to potential employers, made a big list of agencies, met up with other people, got them to recommend other agencies, and so I got this huge list and I thought, right, these are all the people I'm going to hit up for some freelance work, if I ever get the time. Direct mail, I thought my business cards and stuff, rather than just email and stuff, maybe put something in the post, something that maybe was be a bit more memorable. So that was kind of on the horizon as well. And calling into offices in person, which I did a few times, just knocking on and saying hi. It's a little bit easier to do if you've got something to give them, business card, whatever, and it can be a little bit daunting, but you just have to, I guess, man up and do it. And people are usually friendly on the whole. Okay, so on the advertising front, I wasn't sure what to do in terms of whether to create a company name. A lot of freelancers seem to have a company that they trade under, or trade on my name. I kind of figured if I hire other people, then it'd be good to have a company name. But at the moment, there's only me, so I figured if everything was about me, like my name, the company's name after me, when the invoice goes to the client, it's got my name on it, everything kind of adds up, and I'll probably get paid. Whereas if it was some kind of obscure company name, they'd be like, who the fuck is this from? And there could be problems. So I thought, I'll just stick with my name. So then that kind of made deciding on how to advertise myself a little bit tricky, because I didn't have a company logo or anything like that. I wasn't really sure what to do, so I decided I'd do like a campaign, which I've done a lot of whilst working for ad companies, which I think is pretty non-standard for.
An AdWords?
No, an advertising campaign, I guess. So rather than branding, I just decided to do a sort of a campaign, which isn't really a brand. Yeah, a bit weird. Anyway, so I kind of I made up a brand of cereal and decided that I was going to front it, and there was going to be various web-based puns around the cereal, which was completely inspired from Big Brother magazine, which was a skateboarding magazine from the 90s, and they did one edition where it came in a cereal pack, and it had this kid on the front, and inside the pack there was all kinds of surprises. You might have got a set of wheels, a t-shirt, something like that. And it was awesome, everyone loved it, and it sold out, and I never got a copy, so maybe it was closure on that for me. So with all that in mind, we eventually came to my site and the campaign, and I guess that's kind of a brand, but I don't know whether I'm going to stick with that, which was a hell of a lot of fun to make. And took ages because I was actually really busy at the time, but I was fortunate to work with a very good designer and a photographer, and yeah, we had a lot of fun dicking around to come up with that and the copy and stuff. It's actually not the best website in terms of how it works and responsive and all that kind of stuff, because the guy that designed it isn't really so clued up on responsive web design, so it fell over on that point, which kind of irks me, but probably only me, so I'll let that one go. So yeah, what I discovered during this process was that I'm my own worst client. I found myself saying a lot of things I've heard clients say to designers at work that really pissed them off, and I was saying them to my friend. But we got there in the end, and I get a lot of inquiries through the site. Only one is actually about to lead some work out of, I don't know how many, but the inquiries come in, which is cool. So the next thing obviously to do is to make the cereal. So we produced a whole bunch of these packs of cereal. They're only little ones. And these are my business cards. They're not very convenient. But they make a pretty good mailer to post out to prospective clients, and you can kind of fill them with whatever. I got a lot of cereal off someone at Kellogg's, But that's starting to go out of date now, so I think I'm going to put some sweets in them for Christmas. Yeah, totally out of my comfort zone because this is a print and packaging project. I really don't know what the fuck I'm doing with that sort of thing. But again, I had some good support from friends that do that stuff. And it's integrated with the website. And I find it kind of keeps the conversation going with clients. If I've had a contact and then I can send out a mailer and just maybe it'll make me a bit more memorable and maybe they'll come back to me for a bit of work. It's generally been quite well received. So yeah, that was probably my favourite project this year. Okay, enough of advertising. Other ways to find work. Networking, which is what we're all doing right now. I was just saying I've been a bit slack this year about going to networks, but I used to go to Northern Digital's. I've been to Geek Up once, which felt like enough. And then now we've got the Manchester Fred. The problem that I find a lot of the time at these sort of events is that if there's one or two people that I know there already, I'll just drink with them and talk to them and not really network enough. Maybe that's just me. But I'm sure if you put the effort in and talk to enough people, you might make some contacts at these sort of events and that might lead to work. So that's on the radar. Need HQ, is everyone familiar with that? Yeah. I signed up to that and there's quite a lot comes through, especially for front enders. Pretty much every week something comes through for front ender. And yeah, I got one contract that I need this year, but more often than not when they came through I was busy, so really good stream of work coming through it. It's usually people who are panicking on a Friday, so it might be a bit of a shitstorm that you go into, but certainly worth being on the books. Trade organisations. Is anyone a member of Manchester Digital? No, me neither. Well, if you are, you can get an accreditation anyway, and you'll be on their roster as preferred suppliers for digital services in the area. You have to pay to join. And then I think you get invites to tender for projects as well, but I'm not actually a member, so I'm speculating a little bit there. Probably will join because it makes the parties cheaper. And the other thing that they do is they organise events. So, was it last year I went to a really good talk with Tony from Code, a guy from Clear Left. I don't think they've given much profile, so I don't even know how I found out this thing was on. But it's worth keeping an eye on their events because they have some good stuff on. Recruitment agencies. So, yeah, I think that basically recruitment agencies are a necessary evil. As much as you don't want to ever have anything to do with them. In reality, they can open some doors that you can't open yourself. So it's kind of, I guess, keep your enemies closer is the way that I think of recruiters. So far, since being freelance, I haven't had a single contract come through one, but I've had a lot of them get in touch with me, and it's just that those leads haven't paid off. But quite often what I'll do is if one gets in touch with me and they give a rough outline of what the role is, you can pretty much figure out where it is and who it is hiring and go directly there. But not always, so. Okay, next up, proposals and pitches. Who does any of that stuff? Did you used to do that prior to freelance as well? Or?
Not really.
No.
I did a bit of sales when I was younger, so.
I did, like the last couple of years I was at Love, I was a bit more involved in doing pitches and proposals and stuff, and yeah, I'm glad that I was, because you find yourself having to do them as a freelancer for certain gigs. It's pretty boring, more so than difficult, I'd say. But it's pretty scary when you're sending one out with your name on for the first time rather than whatever organisation that you worked for. I'm trying to think this year, probably done about half a dozen proposals. I've not pitched this year. I haven't had a single project out of any of those. But you got to keep doing them. And referrals, so this is the big one really. I look back at the last year and about 2/3 of the year came through referrals for me. The job I got through Need HQ, I was also referred for, so that one kind of overlaps, which I thought was pretty amazing, and I didn't really expect that was going to happen. So where do they come from? And this kind of goes back to that design as a job book. Got a couple of quotes out of there. So the first one, most referrals are from colleagues, friends of colleagues, friends or past clients. I didn't have any from past clients so far, but colleagues certainly. I've worked in a bunch of places now, and people move around and move on, and I know a lot of other freelancers as well. And in fact, fellow freelancers have probably referred me more than anyone else, which I kind of found surprising. I didn't know whether it was a bit of a closed thing when you're a freelancer, protect your clients and that kind of thing. But
Is that designers, freelance designers?
no, front-end developers generally, or just developers that I've worked with before. Yeah, that's the one basically. Pretty much everything that's come through on referral I've done. And I guess it's a kind of a two-way thing because the client is being referred to you as well. So whoever's referring to you is saying this client's either going to pay you, the work might be a bit shitty, but they'll pay you kind of thing. So there's a bit of a trust that goes both ways with it. Makes it a bit more comforting than, I guess, replying to an email or something more direct. So in the book, Mike Montero kind of covers the way to get referrals, which I like. There's only 2 points. Be pleasant to work with, which seems kind of obvious, but I've worked with plenty of assholes. And do good work. I guess if you think about it, if you do those 2 things all the time, people might think of you when someone needs some work doing. And as obvious as they seem, I guess, we've probably all worked on projects that are super high pressure, tight deadlines. Everyone gets a bit tense and acts like a dick. So I guess it's trying to work through those times and come away with the relationships intact, which doesn't always happen, and at the time I never really thought about it in terms of referrals and being a freelancer, but now I think back, I'm glad that I wasn't a complete dick when I could have been, I suppose. So maybe that's the learning there. Great quote from the book is the distinction between being pleasant and nice. No one is hiring to be their friend, hiring to design solutions to problems. They can get the same solution from someone who's pleasant and someone who's a jerk, or go with the former. Which again, is pretty obvious, but yeah, be pleasant. Sometimes you've got to be firm whilst you're being pleasant, I suppose, not just being nice all the time. Right, okay, I'm at my final slide already. Christ. A lot of the time people have got in touch with me when I've been busy, and almost every time I refer them on to a handful of people that I've worked with before. Probably only 3 or 4 people that I could honestly recommend because I've worked with them a lot. But I always do that because it's a good experience for your would-be client. You haven't just said, I'm too busy, sorry, good luck. You've kind of helped to point them in the right direction, and that's something that they might remember in the future.
Those guys will do the same for you as well.
Exactly, yeah, well that's it. Like I was saying earlier on, the work that's come in, it's kind of I guess it's a circle of karma. Yeah, I didn't really know whether that would happen or not, but it does. It turns out. That's it, I'm at the end. That was a lot quicker. The wife told me that it looked way too long. That wasn't a joke, that was about the
20 minutes, spot on. Thanks very much, Rich.
Cheers.